Hi, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Keep Looking Up from the Ward Beecher Planetarium. Unfortunately, we are still doing these because construction has yet to start on our planetarium after our fire just over a year ago. I am happy to report that bids are going on right now for our general contractor. We have contracts signed with all our providers in the planetarium, and it's looking like construction is going to start in just a couple of months, and we should be open again for fall of 2024. So we look forward to seeing you back in the planetarium then. But until then, we will continue to do these shows online for you. And to help me out this evening, my two planetarium minions, superb, are here. We have Aubrey. There she is. And we have Jordan. There she is, and they're going to be helping me with the Star Talk tonight as we take a look around at the current night sky. Before we get to that, though, we are going to talk about what's coming up in April, and boy, are we sad that we cannot have the planetarium open to do this. We are going to be having a total eclipse of the sun on Monday, April 8th. The nice thing is it's a Monday, so if you are really wanting to see the eclipse, you can take a long weekend. Just request that day off now, probably a good idea. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit about the eclipse itself to get you ready. We'll be doing more of this. We'll have a much more in-depth look at the eclipse as we get closer to the event. But just wanted to share with you now what you can expect on April 8th. And you'll have to forgive me here. I'm trying to walk and chew gum at the same time here. So here's a little PowerPoint presentation to get you ready for it. First, what is a solar eclipse? Now, these are not to scale. The sun is way, 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 way bigger than the Earth and the moon, but it lies 93 million miles away from us. By a neat trick of math, the moon, even though it's 1/5 the size of the Earth, is about the same diameter as the sun in our sky because of their distances from us. Now, because of that, several times throughout a 30-year cycle, the moon will pass between the sun and the Earth, casting its shadow on the Earth, and this is a solar eclipse. Eclipses are always named for what's being covered. So in this case, the sun's being covered. This is a solar eclipse. The reason I'm starting here, though, is I want you to notice the shadow of the moon is really, really tiny. It only passes over a small portion of the Earth. Solar eclipses are always paired with lunar eclipses, either 2 weeks before, 2 weeks after. In this case, 2 weeks before, in March, there's going to be a partial lunar eclipse over the eastern hemisphere, not here in the west for us, so we won't see that. But when a lunar eclipse happens, the Earth's shadow blocks the moon, and half the planet gets to see that. So we see lunar eclipses way more frequently than we do solar eclipses. This is really a once in a generation event to see in the nighttime sky here in Ohio. This is a path showing you the entire path. The eclipse, if you look at this little globe down in the corner, the shadow actually touches in the South Pacific, comes up over Mexico, and the moon's shadow will lift off the Earth someplace over Nova Scotia over the thing. But to give you some idea across the country what you can expect, this is how much of the sun's covered. The whole country basically will see at least a partial eclipse. But on this blue path here, this is the path of what we call totality, where the sun will be completely blocked out by the Earth's shadow. This is very rare. The last time we had something like this, a matter of fact, it was this exact eclipse path, happened in 1994. But at that time, the moon was at its furthest point in its orbit. It didn't completely cover the sun. That's what's known as an annular solar eclipse. And so it just got as dark as twilight. The sun didn't wink out. This time, we're going to be completely in the shadow here. Some cities across the country, big cities that are going to be in the path, are San Antonio, Waco, Dallas, Little Rock, Indianapolis, Columbus, Dayton, Akron, and Cleveland. So you can see just north and west of here is going to get a good view. If you're looking for a very hot vacation spot, Niagara Falls is going to be under there. It just misses Toronto. It just misses us, too, here in Youngstown. Let's move on here. And here's a little graphic of what the shadow is going to look like going across. This comes from a great website, which Aubrey and Jordan will post in our notes there, greatamericaneclipse.com. You can find anything you want to know about the eclipse there, including great graphics like this. The first part of the eclipse will happen about 2 o'clock. You'll see here, totality happens in our area about 3:15, and the moon's shadow will completely leave the face of the sun about 4:30. So the 3:15 is what we're looking at for our time. Now, this is a little more detailed picture of what you can, where you'll see the totality. I want you to, especially though, to notice this black line right here. That is the edge of totality. If you're on this side over here, the sun will not be completely covered. In Youngstown and Canton, the sun will be 99% covered. So it will get really, really dark about 3:15 that day. But in this case, 99% is not good enough. If you've never been in a total eclipse, this is a once in a generation chance to be under totality. So Warren will have about 2 minutes of totality. And notice that the further north and west you go, the longer you get. So like over here towards Sandusky and Lorain, you'll get close to 4 minutes of coverage underneath totality, where you'll be underneath the shadow. So if you are planning on moving away from the area to see the eclipse up here. Now, it's something you do need to keep in mind. This is Northeast Ohio. We have the Lake Erie cloud monster up here. So if it is going to be cloudy here, it's good that you can be in a car. Maybe you can drive to some place where it isn't cloudy. Let's hope we're not socked in across the whole state. That's the one thing we're worried about. Now, while we're getting toward totality, you never, ever, ever, ever want to look directly at the sun with your unaided eye. Your eyes are sensitive. The sun is very bright. You can literally burn holes in the retina on the back of your eye. So you need special glasses that can help you protect you from that. Now, if you happen to have a welder's masks work. If you have eclipse shades left from 2017, don't use those. Those are 6 years old. There's 7 years old, and the mylar deteriorates. So they might not. You might think you're protecting your eyes, but you might not. So you do need to get some new eclipse glasses, and now's the time to think about that. So Aubrey, what's one way that we can get eclipse glasses?
Yeah, so the Youngstown State University Society of Physics Students chapter is selling eclipse glasses. They are $5 per pair. And we have, you can go to our physics and astronomy department, which is in Ward Beecher Hall as well.
Pages.
Um, Pages, yeah. And we will also have tables on February 19th and 20th in the heart of campus Kilcawley Center. But if you don't want to come on to campus to at least start that process, you can call our department secretary, Jill Mogg. Her number is 330-941-3616.
How much are those glasses, Aubrey?
Again, they're $5 per pair, so real simple, not expensive. Don't like totally worth it. Just get a pair.
Which is cheaper than you can get them most places. Another spot you can get them is from the place we got ours, which is called Lunt Solar Systems. You can go to our website, wbplanetarium.org. There is a link to Lunt on there. Those are about $10 a pair, but the more pairs you get, the cheaper they are, which is why SPS can sell them so much cheaper. They got a bulk stack to sell, so they got them for cheaper than $10 a pair. These proceeds go directly to the Society of Physics students, and they are actually planning on taking a van up to Lake Erie to see the eclipse. So thank you, Aubrey, for that. One last thing I do want to show you, though. This is a picture of totality from 2017. We didn't get this here in Youngstown, but a good portion of the country did pass under totality. This picture is not photoshopped. When the totality happens for that time, either 2 minutes around Warren or 4 minutes up around the lake, you can literally take off your eclipse shades because the sunlight is blocked by the moon. It gets as dark as night. You can see stars. The temperature drops. Crickets start chirping. But if you look around the edge, you can still see where the sun is shining around the edge of the shadow. So you can actually literally see this like that. So just get ready. So once again, that is Monday, April 8th. It is time to start your planning, and we will be keeping you updated with what we're planning on doing. We're still trying to work out whether we can do a big event. We have some options, so we might be doing a big event for this in the area, but stay tuned for that. As soon as we know something, we will let you know as well. So that is all things eclipse there. And like I said, more on that coming. But what we're going to do now is we are going to move on and take a look at the nighttime sky. And I'm going to actually stop my video so I'm not up in the corner. So you'll just get to hear me as I talk, even though my little Pete the Penguin might pop up there. So I'm going to share another screen. This is a great program we use for this particular show. For those of you who've seen Keep Looking Up, you've seen us use this before. It is a free planetarium program for your computer. You can either download it for free, or you can access it online. It is called Stellarium, and Aubrey and Jordan will also share that in the comments for you. You can just click on that and go to. It depends on what kind of computer you got and how many bits your computer has as to what version you get. So you can check that out in the comments. So I have a set tonight. Number one, sunset tonight was at 5:41 p.m. Our days are getting longer. So we're adding a lot of daylight right now. But I set us for just about the time this program started at 8 o'clock p.m. this evening. And as you can see with this little W down here at the bottom of the screen, we are facing west. I want to point out something that did happen at 8 o'clock. We wouldn't be able to see it because of all the stupid clouds anyway, but see this really, really, really bright dot here? It's even brighter than Jupiter. That's the International Space Station. It made a very, very low pass in the southwest at 8 o'clock this evening. The ISS is even brighter than Venus in the nighttime sky when it is out. So a neat thing you can do with that is there is a website. You can go to NASA. They actually have a tracker that will tell you where the ISS is at any given time, and it will give you alerts when it's going to pass overhead at your location. So check that out. But as I said, here's Jupiter right here. This will be the first thing you see in the evening sky, probably by about 6:15 or so. Jupiter is the fourth brightest object in the entire night sky. The only three things brighter are the sun and the moon, which we just discussed. The moon, by the way, is a new moon tonight, so we don't have it out in any part of our sky. And the planet Venus, which is in our very early morning sky at the moment, is brighter than Jupiter. But this takes the prize in the evening sky. And if you have a telescope or a pair of binoculars and you zoom in on Jupiter, which I can do with this program, which is really cool, like so, you will see, well, right now it's just 3 dots because there are 2 right on top of each other right here. Those are the 4 major moons of Jupiter. They are called the Galilean moons. The closest one to Jupiter is Io, then Europa. The biggest moon in the solar system is Ganymede, and Callisto is over here. Europa is going to be of an important target later this year because NASA is getting ready to launch something known as the Europa Clipper. We know now that underneath, we'll get a good look at Jupiter. If you do have a small telescope there, you can see Io. If you get in close enough, with even a medium-sized telescope, you can see the clouds on Jupiter, and you can make out the 4 dots. Europa is completely covered in ice, and underneath the ice is an ocean of liquid water. And as a matter of fact, Europa has more water on its surface than on the entire surface of the Earth. And because of that, we are actually launching a mission to study whether conditions exist that would promote life in that water. Because one thing we know on Earth, where you got water, that's one of the key ingredients for life here on Earth. So there may be some sort of life underneath the ice on Europa. And later this year, we're going to launch a mission to find out. So stay tuned for that. That'll be a later keep looking up. Or maybe we might be talking about that in the planetarium because I think it's supposed to take off in September when we're back on. We hope it's September we're back on. Get more into that later. Anyway, as you can see, Jupiter is very high in the west-southwestern sky. You won't mistake it for anything else once these clouds get out of here. And from what I understand, over the next week, these clouds are getting out of here, and we're going to have several days where it'll be good to go out and look at the nighttime sky. So keep that in mind. However, you probably don't have a big billboard with the letter W on it in your backyard. So the first thing you got to know what you're looking at is what direction you're looking. Then you know what you're looking at. And to help us figure that out, I am going to turn you over to Jordan.
Hello. So Kurt will turn us around and we will find a very popular constellation that we call the Big Dipper. It's pretty easy to find in our nighttime sky. It's very bright. And it is also known as, if you want to use its fancy scientific name, Ursa Major, which means the Big Bear. There it is. Oh, maybe. There we go. The stars we see are the back end of Ursa Major, which is a little unfortunate, but using those two stars on its back, we can trace to the North Star. If we just follow a straight path going right through them, we see the North Star, which is also known as Polaris. And then that is how we know what direction we are facing. So that is perfectly north, almost. And then Polaris is actually the end of Ursa Minor, or the Little Bear, or the Little Dipper. It is, the cup is right down south, well, not south, but lower in our nighttime sky. And then if we go back to Polaris, we go in that same straight line, we will find the constellation Cassiopeia, which is also in our Milky Way. If you are in a part of the world in a part where there isn't much light pollution, you can also see the Milky Way. But if you're not, Cassiopeia has a pretty W or M in this circumstance shape, which is pretty easy to see in our nighttime sky. Now, I will pass you on to Aubrey, and she'll talk more about the wintertime sky.
Very good, Jordan. But actually, you're going to come back to me really briefly, because I wanted to bring up here that these patterns are both important because of two reasons. Number one, the Big Dipper and Cassiopeia are bright enough you can see it even when you're around this light pollution junk we have in Northeast Ohio. And they're what we call circumpolar. Big word, I know, but circum, like, means around, like circumference, and polar means Polaris. They're always hanging around the North Star, so it doesn't matter what time of the night or what time of the year you're looking at the stars, they're always going to be up in the nighttime sky. But as we stated, this is a winter sky watch, so I am going to pass you off to Aubrey now, who is going to talk to you about the stars that we can see at this time of the year and the reason we wanted to do a winter sky watch.
Thanks, Kurt and Jordan. One of the most prominent constellations in our night sky, especially for the winter sky, is Orion the Hunter, which Kurt is showing you guys right now. And we can find it very distinctly by the three stars that make its belt. There's no other star formation like that, or rather like line of stars like it. So you can always tell that is Orion. And actually, we can zoom in to Orion's belt, and we can see it looks like there's almost like a scabbard or like a sword of some sort hanging off of the belt. And at the end of that, we can see there's like a very fuzzy spot. And if we zoom in, that is the Orion Nebula, which is absolutely gorgeous, as you can see.
I will point out that it's the only star-forming region you can see without the use of a telescope in the night sky.
Yeah, so definitely worth looking up to see it, especially if you're in a darker part of the sky, to be able to see it clearly. And even actually, before you zoom out completely, we can also look in the belt itself at that bottom star, and you can see the Horsehead Nebula as well.
That you need a telescope for.
Yeah. But fortunately, Stellarium doesn't need that.
Yes, that's the beauty of this program. These are actual astrophotos. Now, if you look at these in a telescope, they're just going to appear green to you. The reason they're these bright colors is because these are what we call time exposure pictures. They leave the camera lens open, or the CCD charge coupling device. It's a digital camera, basically. They leave it open for a long time so it can gather more light. That's when you get these bright colors.
Mm-hmm. So if we zoom back out to look at Orion in its fullness, so we can see that you have two very bright stars at the top. Those are his shoulders, or especially for that bright red one right there, Betelgeuse. That is actually an Arabic word for armpit. So yeah, those are supposed to be his shoulders, where he has a club over his head, and then he has a shield in his other hand, and then those two brighter stars below the belt as well are going to be his legs or feet, depending on how you're looking at it. I think with that depiction, the one was his foot, the other one was his knee. So yeah, you can kind of be a little bit artistic looking at constellations depending on how you want to see them. But I think Orion is a very distinct one where like you can actually see the shape of a hunter compared to some of the other ones where the Greeks were a little crazy to see what they saw. But from Orion, what we can do, so since he is a hunter, he must be hunting something. So we can use his belt to go up, and we see a very bright red star that looks very similar to Betelgeuse, but it's not, and it's called Aldebaran, excuse me. And you can tell that it is not Betelgeuse because there is this V of stars around it. So then you know that it is Aldebaran. And this cluster of stars right there is the Hyades or Hyades. I've heard it said both ways, but I always like to think of it as the Hyades because it's kind of waving hey to Orion. Um, so that is the head of Taurus the bull. Yeah. So we can see that his horns go up to two brighter stars above Taurus's head. And then he has this like really small body below him in almost like a triangle to a weird rhombus square thing. And then you also see this little cluster of stars right there. And those are the Pleiades. And that is the most photographed part of the night sky. And the reason for this, they are called the Seven Sisters. And particularly for the Japanese, they're very important, especially in their culture and even like mythology. And in Japan, they're known as Subaru. So if you've ever had the fortune of having a Subaru car, you've seen this logo, even if you've just seen the commercials. It's a depiction of the Seven Sisters. And so with your eyes, if it's really, really dark and you have really good eyesight, you can see the brightest seven. Usually people can only see about five, maybe six if you're lucky. But seven is what we saw with telescopes back when it was kind of first discovered and everything. But there's over 250, I think you said, Kurt?
Yep.
Yeah. And so you can actually see the remnants of the nebula and the star forming region that they came from. And so, unlike other parts of constellations such as Orion with the stars in a line, the Pleiades are actually really close together where they actually are a star cluster. It's not just that they happen to be near one another, but are like different distances away. No, these are like around the others.
I
So
should
that
point
is
out,
a really cool area.
yeah, actually, I'll get to this a little bit later, but a good example of that is the Hyades. Aldebaran is actually not a part of the Hyades. It's actually twice as close to our sun as the rest of those stars. It just happens to lie in the same direction.
Right. So now the Greeks didn't want to have Orion alone hunting this great big bull because he's just one man, even though he might have been favored by the gods. So he has two hunting dogs to help him. So we can use Orion's belts again to go down to a very bright blue star called Sirius, which is seriously the brightest star in our night sky. And actually, it is a binary star system. I'm not sure if we can zoom in on that to show, but yeah, Sirius B is the star that is the brighter one, but you can actually see Sirius A if we can zoom in on this. I don't know.
I
But
think
that
this
is
is
Sirius A,
Sirius
yeah.
B.
Oh,
One,
okay,
I think that's the pup right there.
gotcha. Okay. So yeah, so that is Sirius. And so then if we zoom back out, we can actually see the full body of this bigger dog, which is Canis Major. So again, the big dog. So you can think of Sirius as the dog's collar, and then you have the one leg right there, and then he has a body coming down. He has another leg, and then the kind of tail coming out from that. So that is Sirius, his bigger dog. And then if there is a bigger dog, we also usually have a little dog. So if we come back up, we can then curve from that belt going down to Sirius and curve back up to a star right there that is called Procyon. And what's really cute about Canis Minor, the little dog, is it's only those two stars right there. I like to think of it as a wiener dog in the night sky. I'm not sure why anyone would want one of those as a hunting dog, but hey, I mean, I guess it worked because in the mythologies, Orion was able to defeat the bull. But so that actually makes the bottom half of our winter circle, which Kurt will talk about in just a moment. But even if you can't see the other stars in that circle, those three stars, Sirius, Procyon, and I want to say Rigel, is that correct?
Beetlejuice.
Okay, yeah. So Beetlejuice up there. I usually see it for Rigel. But those make the winter triangle if you can't see the full winter circle. But yeah, I will hand it over to Kurt to talk about the rest of the winter circle.
Okay. I do want to point out that Aubrey talked about Sirius being the brightest star in the sky. We actually rank stars by how bright they appear in the sky. The very brightest stars we call first magnitude stars. There are 26 of those in the entire night sky. By the way, just so you know, if we come back over to the north real quick, sorry about going so quick here. Polaris here, it's number 47. It's not one of those first magnitude stars. The dimmer a star is, the higher its magnitude number. So Polaris is a second magnitude star. All three of the belt stars of Orion are second magnitude stars. The dimmest stars that you can see around lights are about third magnitude stars. If you're at a really, really dark location, like way out west or in the mountains of West Virginia, something like that, you can see down to around sixth magnitude. Okay. But let's go back to the first magnitude stars. I said there are 26 of those in the entire sky. Some of those we never see here in Youngstown. They're always below our horizon. They're southern objects. Others you only see in the summer or the fall or the spring. But out of those 26, we've got 9 of them right here forming what we refer to as the winter circle. Aubrey's already talked to you about 5 of them, actually. Well, she mentioned 4 by name. Betelgeuse is a first magnitude star. Rigel, Sirius, and Procyon are first magnitude stars. Also, Aldebaran is a first magnitude star, and this star that is his shoulder, Bellatrix, is also a first magnitude star. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them right off the bat. I'm going to talk about the other 3, though. Actually, it's only 8 because one's right on the margins. But first, I'm going to come up to this bright star right here, which is called Capella. Capella is almost directly overhead at night, so it's very easy to pick out. And it's found in a constellation that not a lot of people know about. I just went to a different star because I clicked. Capella is found in the constellation. That one came up too quick. So let me do that and try that again. There you go. It's Auriga the Charioteer. Why he is holding a goat? You got to read the Greek story. It's weird. But I've had a problem with this because I don't know any charioteers in the nighttime sky. I'll get to what he looks like in just a minute. Well, no, I can do it now. The Greeks managed to make a constellation out of 2 stars down here to make the little dog with Procyon and that star there. Actually, astronomers don't use constellations in the same way as we do today. All the Greek people had to do was keep track of what they could see with their eyes, playing dot to dot with the stars got them by just fine. Well, today, astronomers need to find really faint stuff in every last little nook and cranny of the sky. So what we've done is divided the entire sky into 88 parts, and each part is represented by a constellation. That way, any object, no matter how faint, will fall somewhere inside the boundaries of a constellation. It's kind of like when you look at a map of the United States. This is a big country, so we divided it into 50 states. That way, any object, no matter how faint, will fall somewhere inside the boundaries of a state. A city will fall somewhere inside the boundaries of a state. Well, it's the same thing with the nighttime sky. For an astronomer today, Auriga isn't these stars. Auriga is this entire part of the sky that I'm closing in up here. So that means I can do whatever I want to those stars to make that something I can remember as a charioteer. And the way I think of this is, what is a charioteer? Well, back in ancient Greece, when they were making all these constellations, they didn't have sports like football or basketball or baseball, anything like that. If they wanted to go see a sport, they went to go see a chariot race. And you've seen chariots before, those little two-wheeled wagons drawn by horses. They used to race them around ovals, so I guess that kind of makes it like NASCAR today. But in any event, the charioteers were their big time athletes. So they've honored one of their jocks by putting him up here in the nighttime sky. So I guess if we were naming constellations today, this might be Patrick Mahomes, Ichiro. I guess Ichiro isn't current now. I can't remember the name of the gentleman who just went from the Angels to the Dodgers. Who's such a good pitcher and hitter, but it's probably somebody like that. But the Greeks beat us to it, so we have Auriga instead. So I think of him as a superstar athlete. So I see a big star up here, and that's how I remember the charioteer. And you guys can do the same thing when you're looking at the nighttime sky. You can use your imagination to make your own patterns to help you remember where these things are. I actually think that's one of the most fun parts of looking at the nighttime sky, actually, is doing what the ancient Greek people did. So keep that in mind for when you go out. Okay, so let's review our circle, what we've got so far. We have Betelgeuse and Bellatrix in the middle of the circle. We have Rigel. Well, actually, let's come over here. We have Procyon. We have Sirius. We have Rigel. We have Aldebaran. We have Capella. The last two stars of the winter circle are these two guys over here. This star is called Castor, and this one is called Pollux. And some of you may recognize the names of Castor and Pollux. Those are the, and I left him up there, so 1 second here. Those are the Gemini twins, and this is the constellation Gemini. Those two bright stars mark the heads of the twins. Now, it can be confusing keeping these guys straight because they are twins. There's a real simple way to remember which twin is which. You can remember that Castor begins with C, and so does Capella. So the two C's are on the same side of the circle, and Pollux begins with the letter P, and so does Procyon down here. So the two P's are on the same side of the circle. Now, I do want to point out something really cool here, and that's with Castor in the nighttime sky. When you look at our solar system, we have one star at the center of our solar system, and all the planets go around that one star. And we do see a lot of systems in our galaxy like that. However, keep in mind that stars form in these clouds of gas and dust like the Orion Nebula down here, and like the Pleiades up here. And when you get stars like that, the gravity from several stars will attract one another as they form. So it's actually more common in our galaxies to see solar systems with 2, 3, or even more stars in them. Well, Castor here is actually it's Pollux. Pollux is a really good example of this. If I zoom in on Pollux, you'll see that as you get close, I think I can do this. I think it's this one and this one are actually orbiting each other. They are a double star system in the nighttime sky. And if you get a telescope and get close enough to them, you can actually resolve that double star going around. As a matter of fact, I think it's recently been proved through what we call spectroscopy, that's looking at the chemicals in the stars, that is a triple double system. They're actually 3 sets of 2 stars that are orbiting around each other that make up Pollux. So that's actually kind of cool. I did want to get back to Castor, though, too, because it's a very cool star as well. It has a planet going around it that we know of. It was one of the very first exoplanets that we discovered in the nighttime sky, which is kind of cool. So, and it's one of the brighter stars that has a known planet around it. So you can actually look up at Castor in the nighttime sky and know that there is a planet going around that star. Now, I think there is a way I can do this. Let me see if I can figure out if I can do this. Control Shift E. No, maybe not. There is a way I could put up all the planets that have exoplanets around them. Let me see if I can find it down here. There. Show exoplanets. There you go. Every one of those little green dots you see is a star with a planet around it. Just last year, we passed 3,000 planets we know around other stars. By the way, tell your local astrologer just the planets in our solar system kind of loses its weight when there are 3,000 other ones out there. So just wanted to point that out. So that is our winter circle. It's going to be prominent in our nighttime sky for the next month and a half, 2 months, but it's highest in the south at this time of the year. So it is a great time to go out and look at this part of the sky. There's all sorts of stuff you can see in this part of the sky. So let's go around the winter circle once again. We'll start with Rigel. We'll come up to Aldebaran, over to Capella, Castor, Pollux, Procyon, and Sirius. That brings us back around, and those are the stars of the winter circle. Easy to spot even if you are around light pollution. Great targets for telescopes in this area with the Orion Nebula. You can see the Horsehead pretty well. Right now, you've got Jupiter up in this part of the sky. Very easy to see. By the way, if you have any questions about any of this stuff that we are talking about here, please put things in the comments. We'll be happy to answer them as we go along here. Have any comments come up, Aubrey or Jordan?
None yet.
None yet. So if you get a chance and you have questions about things, we'll be happy to questions and answers here at the end for you. I do want to point out, though, that even though it's kind of nice now, I was just listening to Eric Wilhelm on WFMJ before we started all this, and he says, wow, it's going to be good for the first part of February, and that weird little rodent over in Pennsylvania said we're going to have spring just around the corner. He says climatologically, it could be kind of rough the last 2 weeks of February as far as cold and snow. So be aware of that. We are still in winter, but I am happy to report if we come over to the eastern sky, and I am going to move us ahead in time from 8 o'clock where we're at. I got to do this over here. I'm going to move us up an hour to 9 o'clock, like so. Isn't that cool? I can do that so easily. Over here, I am happy to report we are seeing the signs of spring in our winter sky. And the brightest star of the spring sky, not as bright as those stars in the circle, but sitting over here just above the eastern horizon at 9 o'clock is the star Regulus. And we find the star Regulus in the very famous and very distinct constellation of Leo the Lion in the nighttime sky. You've probably heard the phrase that March comes in like a lion. Well, Regulus and Leo literally start rising in the east right at sunset, almost to the day of the first day of March. So that phrase, in like a lion, literally comes from the nighttime sky. Now, Leo isn't nearly as bright as Orion over there, but he is still very easy to pick out because his head looks like a backwards question mark here. This is what we refer to as the sickle. By the way, since it's an easy to find pattern that isn't a constellation, like the Big Dipper, which is right over here in the northeast, we have a special name for patterns like that in the nighttime sky. Those are called asterisms. And there are a lot of those in the nighttime sky as well. Aubrey pointed out the winter triangle to you. The winter circle is also an asterism. So you can find that in the nighttime sky. Even without that outline, Leo is very easy to see. The sickle makes the mane of the lion. He's lying down. Yuck, yuck, yuck. Front leg is there. Body runs back like this to a star called the nebula, and then his tail's right here. So he is very easy to pick out. And even though he's not as bright as Orion, there's just not a lot else around him in this part of the sky. So even if you are around lights, he is pretty easy to pick out in the nighttime sky. Now, Aubrey mentioned this too. I do want to point out that the winter circle has a lot more stars in it, and there's a lot less over here in the spring sky. Well, that's due to the Milky Way running right in through here. Our Milky Way galaxy is what we refer to as a spiral galaxy. It looks like a big pinwheel out in space. And it's very, very wide, but not all that thick. It's pretty narrow. Most of our Milky Way lies along this direction. We actually live out in the suburbs. We live in a spiral arm about halfway out from the middle called the Orion arm of the Milky Way. It's called that because if you got in a spaceship and you started flying in the direction of the constellation of Orion, you'd actually be traveling up and out of our spiral arm on your way out into deep space. So we are in the Orion arm, and most of our galaxy is what you see when you see the Milky Way. Actually, I can show you this. As you zoom in, the more magnification you have, the more and more and more stars that you can see in this part of the sky. But those stars are so far away from us, we can't make a lot of them out as individual points of light. Instead, their light blends together and makes this glow you see. Now, this is really faint. If you are around light pollution, you will not be able to see the Milky Way. As a matter of fact, a recent survey has shown that 80% of the United States, 80% can no longer see the Milky Way in their nighttime sky due to light pollution. So if you can see the Milky Way, you know you are in a good location to look at the nighttime sky. But my point is, most of our galaxy lies along the winter sky, and then again in the summer sky. When you're looking toward the summer sky, you're looking toward the center of our galaxy. So there's a lot more stuff in here. When you're looking toward the spring sky, where I was showing you Leo, and in this part of the sky over here, you're actually looking perpendicular to the plane of our galaxy. You're looking up and out. However, that's important for our two astronomers that we have at Youngstown State University, Dr. Pat Durrell and Dr. John Feldmeyer. They are extragalactic astronomers. They study things outside of our Milky Way. And there just so happens to be a huge cluster of galaxies that our Milky Way is loosely associated with in this direction that they study very often. As a matter of fact, Dr. Durrell right now is analyzing data that they got from the Hubble Space Telescope about 3-4 years ago. They took a hyper intense picture of this area of the sky, and they're actually classifying some stuff in this. They call that a survey that they had Hubble take. And he still does use the Hubble Space Telescope on a regular basis. So there you go. That is a lot of stuff, I know. So my goal, though, and our goal is not to try to make you remember every last little detail of the nighttime sky. As a matter of fact, that's kind of beside the point. What we hope you will do, though, by the way, there's another great website. You guys can put this in the comments as well. It is called skymaps.com. If you come to the planetarium, you've seen these. These are what I print out and have available for you at the front of the room. So when you leave, you can take one of these with you. It's a PDF that you can print out that shows you the current night sky, also gives you interesting objects to hit with telescopes, or you can get a program like Stellarium and do this too. But what I hope you will do is the next time you're outside and the stars are out, go out and look up. The nighttime sky is constantly changing over your head, and I hope what we've done here is give you a starting place where you can go out and explore it. It's a lot of fun to do that. All right, so I hope you guys enjoyed that look at the nighttime sky. Aubrey and Jordan, has any comments come up in the any questions come up while I was talking?
Nope.
No comments. Okay. Well, the nighttime sky is a lot of fun. Just so you know, if you want to see me do something very similar to this live on February 23rd, Friday, at 5:30 p.m., I am going to be doing a Star Talk at the Ford Nature Center in Mill Creek Park. admission is free, but they have limited space, so they are requiring invitations. So you need to call and reserve a spot. You can go to our Facebook page, and we have that number there, or you can go to Mill Creek Parks Ford Nature Center and see their Winter Talk series and get the information you need to reserve your spot. So I hope to see you there for that as well. We are going to be trying to do these every month now. And hopefully next time we come on, I will have more information about our timeline for when the planetarium is going to be done. I am now getting excited about this once again because our architect, for the first time since the planetarium opened in 1967, is going to have a cohesive color theme thanks to our architect. So that's going to be fun when it happens too. So more on that when we get closer. And don't worry, I will be giving you regular updates when construction does begin. I plan on posting time-lapse pictures so you can see the state of the progress as things go. But for those of you who don't know, the current dome is literally coming out, and we are getting a brand new dome put in. So that's a big deal and takes a lot of work. So we'll see that when it comes. So if nobody has any questions in there, prep for the eclipse now. Look for eclipse shades. Plan on where you're going to be for the eclipse. And we will see you soon. And until then, keep looking.